I remember a little boy I knew from preschool once begged his mom to let him eat her dessert too. Sitting across from me now is my small grandson, Luke, who must be around the same age. Even as his tummy growled with hunger, he looked at his kid's meal on the table and said,
I want to save this for mommy.
I'm Karen, 65 years old. My husband John, who is the same age as me, works as a self-employed cab driver, while I work in a company cafeteria. It's just the two of us now, but we used to live with our only daughter, Tammy. Tammy was always kind-hearted but a bit shy and reserved. Even when she turned 30, she didn't have a boyfriend, or even the prospect of one. Back then, John worked as a chauffeur, and one day Tammy delivered something he'd left behind. That small favor led to her meeting the son of one of John's regular corporate clients. Their relationship progressed quickly, from dating to engagement to marriage. Tammy ended up living a life I never could have imagined for her. Her husband, Chris, was the total package. He had a solid income, was highly educated, and tall, a true triple threat. Despite being on a fast track to success, he was a humble and kind man. When John and I reached retirement age, Chris went out of his way to help us. He financially supported John in becoming a self-employed taxi driver. He even helped me land my current job in a cafeteria owned by one of his connections. We were forever grateful to him. A year after the wedding of Tammy and Chris, Tammy gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Luke. When we visited the hospital, Luke was lively and adorable. Tammy looked so happy, and we were all surrounded by so much joy. However, that visit turned out to be the last time I saw Tammy and Luke. After that, I got sporadic responses to my attempts to contact her. I figured that she was busy adjusting to motherhood, but Chris messaged me saying,
She's doing her best every day. Please give her some time.
Then, out of nowhere, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and years passed without us seeing each other. I missed them, but I tried to find comfort in the saying, no news is good news.
Maybe they will visit us for Christmas this year.
It was my day off that day. I was arranging last year's Christmas greeting cards on the table. I was checking the number of people to send them to and their names. I let out a sigh, thinking about Tammy and her family. They had never come to visit us. It might be because they knew John had been always busy as a cab driver during holidays. Well, we could visit them instead, but since they asked us to wait, it feels wrong to push it. The only time I got to see Tammy and Luke was in the annual holiday card they sent. Each year, it's the same professionally taken photo. Even though it's a chance to see them, they always look so formal and stiff.
I wish I could see you too in your everyday life.
Last year's card was no different. Meanwhile, the cards I got from friends and coworkers showed their kids smiling ear to ear. Oh, well, I should stop overthinking. Every family is different. John would be back from his night shift in about an hour. He had asked me to make beef stew for dinner since it was snowing and freezing outside. I was about to start preparing for lunch. I cleaned up the cards and stood up to prepare lunch. Ding dong. I heard the doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone, and we hadn't ordered anything. When I opened the door cautiously, I saw Tammy and Luke standing in the falling snow. Tammy looked worn out, and Luke had grown so much.
It's been a while, Mom.
Oh my goodness. You should have told me you were coming. Come inside, it's freezing out there.
I ushered them inside and closed the door. Snowflakes clung to their shoulders. I handed them towels, just as I was about to guide them further in. Tammy suddenly dropped to her knees in the entryway.
Wait, what are you doing?
Mom, please. I need you to take care of Luke for a while.
What? I couldn't help but let out a confused gasp at her unexpected plea. When I asked for more details, it turned out that Chris, who had to work remotely, found it hard to focus with a young child around. He wanted us to take care of Luke until his next in-office workday.
Don't make it sound like it's Luke's fault.
I couldn't help but raise my voice and glanced immediately at poor Luke. Whether he heard or not, he stood stiffly, avoiding eye contact. I gently tilted my daughter's face up and lowered my voice to continue.
Besides, you can't just spring this on me. We're not prepared for this, and isn't Luke supposed to be in kindergarten?
I kept him out of kindergarten to prepare for the entrance exam for a private elementary school. Just look after him without asking too many questions, please. I have to go back to take care of Chris, but I promise I'll come to pick Luke up soon. Please, I'm begging you, Mom.
Tammy gripped my shoulders so tightly that it hurt. I realized how desperate she was. Though I felt uneasy about her appearance, I decided to take care of Luke since she was pleading so much.
Thank you, Mom.
Tammy's face lit up with relief as she hugged Luke tightly.
Stay here with Grandma and Grandpa until I come back, okay? They're both so kind. You'll be fine, I promise.
Tammy reassured Luke, smiled at me once more, and left. Once Luke and I were alone, I knelt to his level. I tried to sound as cheerful as I could.
It's been a while, hasn't it, Luke? You've grown so much. How old are you now?
I'm 4.
He replied softly, without a hint of emotion. Oh dear, is he nervous? I thought. It was understandable as it had been years since we last saw each other, not even once since he was a baby.
It must be cold. Keep standing in the entryway. Just come on in.
Yes, Grandma.
Looking uneasy, Luke walked into the living room.
Just sit anywhere. I'll get you something warm to drink. How about hot milk?
Yes, but, please don't trouble yourself.
There it was again. His oddly formal tone for a child made me tilt my head in confusion. While heating up some milk in the microwave, I brewed coffee for myself. When I returned to the living room carrying 2 mugs, I was shocked. Luke was sitting cross-legged on the floor with his back hunched, looking apologetic.
Wait, don't sit on the cold floor. Come sit on the couch, it's empty. This is your mom's childhood home, which means it's your home too. Relax, okay?
When I handed him the hot milk, he timidly said,
Thank you.
and perched on the edge of the couch, barely sitting. I wondered how I could help him relax. While I pondered, my eyes fell on his small backpack lying at his feet.
Oh, I see. Did you bring a change of clothes? Can I help you unpack your bag? If there's a toy he likes in there, it could spark a conversation.
I thought. When I asked him with a smile, he handed me the backpack. Did he mean yes? Inside the backpack, I found some clothes and underwear. Besides, there was an insurance card and health booklet. There were no toys at all. Instead, there were a pencil case and 3 pre-elementary school level workbooks.
Wow, are you working hard on your studies?
Maybe his grown-up way of speaking was also related to this school preparation. When I expressed my admiration, Luke bit his lip and nodded. I couldn't help thinking that at his age, just knowing how to write the alphabet would be impressive, but judging by his reaction, he didn't see it that way. A bittersweet smile spread across my face. As I instinctively reached out to pat his head, his whole body flinched. He turned his face away and curled into himself as if to shield his head. I quickly pulled my hand back.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you like that.
I forced an awkward smile. Luke cautiously looked up at me and murmured in a small voice.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm the one who startled you. It looks like you got caught in the snow, So let's run a bath for you. I'll start making lunch now. Just relax and do whatever you like, okay?
Luke slowly stood up and nodded silently. As soon as I walked away, he eagerly opened his workbook and started concentrating on it. Seeing him like that, I couldn't help but furrow my brows.
What kind of life have Tammy and Luke been living?
Seeing the way he speaks, the things he carries in his backpack, and even his demeanor made me uneasy. Is it the pressure of school prep or something? I wondered. Whatever it was, it didn't feel right to let him stay in that constant state of tension. Even if it was just temporary, I would be living with my sweet grandson for a while. If possible, I would like to see his carefree smile. With that in mind, I decided to change the lunch menu. I fried the shrimp I had stocked in the freezer. Then I sautéed chicken and onions with rice and seasoned them with ketchup. I also made meatballs with a teriyaki flavor. I glazed the carrots to make them sweet. While I was finishing up, the bath was ready. I put down what I was doing and called out to him.
Luke, the bath's ready. Go ahead and get in.
But, I need to finish my workbook.
What are you talking about? Warming up is more important.
That's when it hit me. Wait a minute, can you take a bath by yourself? Can you wash your hair and body on your own? If not, we might have to wait for Grandpa to get home. I doubted he'd want to bathe with me. While I was mulling over what to do, Luke shook his head.
No, I can do it. I always bathe alone.
It looked like he was speaking a little proudly when he said that. That unexpected change made me smile. Trying to suppress the grin creeping onto my face, I spoke to him gently. Good, that's settled then. I still have some kitchen work to do, so I'll leave it to you. Take your time and warm up. I led him to the bathroom and handed him a towel. Then I showed him where everything was. I also asked him to press the call button if anything came up, then closed the door softly. I heard the sound of the shower running. It seemed like he was doing fine. Feeling relieved, I went back to the kitchen and resumed cooking. It had been years since I made dishes like these, yet now the countertop was lined with them. Once everything was ready, I plated the food on the largest dish I owned. Just as I finished, I heard the soft pitter-patter of Luke's feet coming into the living room. I was about to tell him lunch was almost ready when I heard the front door open.
Whose little shoes are these?
Came John's surprised voice. Luke flinched, his little shoulders trembling.
Hey, there are tiny shoes by the door. Whose are they?
When John walked into the living room, his eyes went wide. There you are. This is our grandson, Luke. He's 4 years old now, so grown up, isn't he? He came today because Tammy asked us to look after him for a while. I gently nudged Luke forward. He smiled.
Hi.
Luke, huh? You've gotten so big. Do you remember me? I'm your grandpa.
John addressed Luke, beaming, while Luke glanced at me uncertainly. I smiled warmly back at him. Hey, you must be cold too. The bath's still hot, so go ahead and take a soak before it cools down.
Oh, how about I hop in with you, Luke?
Take a good look, he just got out of the bath. Besides, you're quick as a bird in water. After quickly sending John off, Luke stared at us with a confused expression. Then he smiled softly, as if relieved. Oh my, he's just a normal boy when he smiles. I felt relieved. I sat Luke down in a chair and placed a one-plate meal and tomato soup in front of him. His face brightened up immediately.
What's this?
Heh, it's Grandma's special kids' lunch. Enjoy it. It was a unique kids' lunch I made using the skills I learned while working in a cafeteria. While Luke was in the bath, I even made a little flag to stick in the ketchup rice. Just as he was about to grab his fork and take a bite, he suddenly stopped, looking startled. Then, furrowing his brow, he asked me,
Can I really eat it now? I haven't finished my workbook yet, and I haven't gotten a perfect score on it.
Huh? I was at a loss for words, not understanding what he meant. Soon after, John came out of the bathroom, towel drying his hair.
A kid's meal. It looks delicious. Aren't you going to eat it, Luke?
Ah, yes, I know. Studying is important, but a kid shouldn't go hungry. Encouraged by John's words, I gently spoke to Luke. He slowly took a few grains of rice, putting them in his mouth with his fork.
It's delicious,
He said, sounding reassured. Just as I sighed in relief, John whispered something in my ear from behind.
Are you hurt or something?
Huh? What on earth is he talking about? Why did he suddenly ask such a question out of nowhere? As you can see, I'm perfectly fine. Not a single crack on my hands. I had always been careful to avoid injuries to my hands or fingers since they would interfere with my work.
Well, that's good then.
Though I found John's strange smile puzzling, I began preparing his meal. After that, the three of us gathered around the table. Luke was eating slowly and hesitantly. If it's too much, you don't have to force yourself.
Well, it's not that. If I eat slowly, I get full with a little portion, you know? I always share the meals with Mom and eat like that. I know how to do it.
Are you serious? You really always do that.
The food's really good. I want to share this with Mom.
Share with Mom? I didn't quite understand what Luke meant. Before I could ask, John stood up swiftly and walked out of the room. Hey, where are you going? I heard him talking to someone in the distance. After a while, he came back holding his phone. He then motioned for me to come to the corner of the room. What's going on?
I just called Tammy.
That was odd. John almost never called her.
I called the landline. Am glad she picked up.
I didn't get what he meant, and he continued with a serious expression.
Listen, don't be upset with whatever you find out from now on. Stay calm, just like usual.
I had no idea what he was talking about. However, something in his serious tone sent a chill down my back. With a gentle smile, John kneeled next to Luke and asked softly,
Luke, do you like your mom?
Luke nodded slowly.
Then do you like your dad?
As soon as that question was asked, Luke bit his lip, looked down, and started trembling. There is nothing to be scared of, Luke. As I rushed over to Luke, he gave me a desperate look. I understand. Luke, we are on your side and your mom's side too. It's going to be okay. I'm just going to roll up your shirt a little, all right? John rolled up Luke's shirt. I swallowed a scream as I saw countless painful marks scattered across his soft skin. There were swollen welts and scratch marks. I even found bruises of blue and red, forming blotchy patterns. John let out a quiet sigh and hugged rigid Luke, asking,
Did your dad do that?
Luke didn't say anything or even nod, but large tears started to fall as he sniffled. I took that as his answer. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe this was happening. The reality was too much to process.
Hurry up, let's go.
When I looked up at John's voice, he was already wearing his jacket and holding his wallet and car keys. Wait, what are we going to do?
We're going to Tammy's place. The address was on last year's Christmas card from her, right?
In no time, John got in the car.
Okay, listen. I can say this from my cab driver's experience. If you take on a dangerous customer one-on-one in a private room, you'll lose. So, here's the plan.
While checking the address and map, he gave me instructions on what I should do. The real issue was what to do about Luke. Given the situation, I was debating whether to leave him at home by himself. However, he climbed into the car on his own.
I'm going to Mom's.
Luke's eyes held a firm resolve. As expected from a seasoned driver, John quickly got the car moving, confirming the address from the Christmas card without using the GPS. During the ride, Luke kept his fist clenched tightly. The moment John became suspicious was when he saw the trash can in the changing room. He found a large number of Band-Aids thrown away and, after watching Luke's behavior, he became convinced. When John called Tammy, she sounded uneasy and quickly hung up, claiming she was busy.
Don't you think that's strange? Even though we are his real grandparents, we barely know each other, and it's only the first day we've had him. If I called at a time like that, wouldn't she usually ask something about the situation or show concern for her child?
Now that he mentioned it, everything made sense. From the way things had gone when we took Luke in, he didn't seem to have any fear of his mom. Besides, from the look of things, Tammy hadn't handed him over because she didn't want him.
I told Tammy to leave the front door unlocked. We'll be there in an hour by car.
Tammy, who didn't even have a driver's license, had made her way to our place, by train and bus, in the cold, snowy weather. This was the first time she relied on us, even though we were her parents and her son's grandparents. It made me realize how isolated she must have felt. At the same time, the thought of her seemingly good-natured husband sent a chill down my spine. How could Chris do something like that to such a small child? We arrived at Tammy's house, which was much larger than ours, probably twice the size. The imposing gate seemed to reject us. When Luke held his hand to the sensor next to the gate, it slowly opened. The front door wasn't locked. I felt like I was catching a glimpse of Tammy's true feelings, which she had never expressed in words.
Where have you taken our son?
As soon as we entered Tammy's house, we heard Chris shouting at Tammy, and I noticed her cheek was swollen and inflamed. It was probably Chris who did it. In front of Tammy, Chris was fuming with rage. According to what we found out later, he had always been somewhat domineering, but after Luke's 3-year-old checkup, when the doctor said Luke's development was slow, Chris changed completely. He scolded Tammy, saying it was because of how she raised Luke. Besides, he insisted that Tammy had sent Luke to an inadequate kindergarten, and he forced Luke to quit the kindergarten and begin homeschooling. However, as Luke struggled to meet the expectations, Chris grew more and more frustrated and began throwing harsh words at him. When Tammy spoke out against his strict disciplinary methods, something inside him snapped. He declared that he would rediscipline both Tammy and Luke and then took her phone away. Soon after, his actions escalated beyond words, and he began hitting both of them. They lived in constant fear of him. When they heard that Chris was going to start working remotely due to the pandemic, they were filled with dread. Even with him away at work, it had been suffocating, but now, the source of their fear would be home all day. While he was out, Tammy planned to sneak away and take Luke to the safest place she could find. I thought you had an important meeting, so I didn't want to disturb you. I left Luke with a friend, Tammy said, giving the excuse she had prepared. It seemed Chris didn't realize Luke was gone for a while, even while working from home. He paused his meeting to complain to Tammy, cutting off his camera and audio. From behind Chris, we could see his screen. The audio was muted since he was using earphones, but it was clear that the meeting was still ongoing.
You're already the lowest as a wife and mother, and now you're doing whatever you want. No wonder Luke isn't growing up properly with you pampering him like that.
As soon as Chris said so, he swung his arm violently. Tammy braced herself for the expected pain, and it was that very moment that we came in.
My daughter is the best, and my grandson is growing up wonderfully.
John said resolutely.
What?
John stopped Chris's hand behind him with a smooth martial arts motion, using the techniques of Aikido. John's body blocked the computer screen. The next moment, he skillfully immobilized Chris with just one hand.
Ouch! Why are you here?
More importantly, explain why you said those things to Tammy earlier and what's going on with those painful marks on Luke's body.
No one could look away from the sudden turn of events. John, who had dealt with many clients over the years, had studied self-defense and was a black belt in Aikido. For Chris, who had been desk-bound and out of shape, it was no match. For a moment, Chris's eyes darted around, though he quickly put on a calm expression.
This is a personal issue. Please don't interfere with our family matters. Besides, if you look at the computer, you can see him working. So, please let go.
Chris said this with no shame. He glanced at Tammy, who had collapsed, and Luke, who rushed to her side, and then he gave us a chilling smile.
Come on, you two. You understand we shouldn't involve your parents in our personal matters, right?
For Tammy and Luke, who were constantly mistreated, had their meals reduced, and were often locked in cold rooms, his words must have felt like an order they couldn't refuse.
Dad, let go of him. At Tammy's words, John slowly released Chris's hand.
In the meanwhile, I had been standing beside John with my arms crossed. Chris opened the door to the room with an insincere gesture and motioned for John and I to leave.
Well, we need to clear up any misunderstandings with you, but that can wait until later. The most important thing right now is that you don't want to lose your jobs, do you? Just leave today's matters behind and go home.
Don't underestimate us.
Excuse me?
We care more about Luke than anything, even more than our jobs. You think we'll just quietly leave after seeing him like that and hearing your attitude toward Tammy?
I took out my phone and tapped the screen, replaying the cruel words that Chris had thrown at Tammy earlier. We've also taken photos of the marks on Luke's body. We're going to the police with this evidence. The color drained from Chris's face.
Wait, the police? It's not that serious. It was just discipline.
Is treating our daughter like that and denying her food really discipline? Is it discipline to hurt a 4-year-old child's body so badly that we can't even tell what color their skin is?
I mean, it's not what you might be assuming.
And when we made Luke a lunch, he wanted to share it with his mother. You live in a big house like this, yet you can't even provide proper meals for your family? Chris was at a loss for words as John and I continued rapid-fire accusations. At that time, Tammy spoke up, summoning her courage.
We can't continue like this. Please, divorce me.
Are you serious?
At Chris's reaction, Tammy's body involuntarily flinched. There was apparently one time when she had tried to bring up divorce, but he immediately shut her down with a firm no. The reason he refused the divorce was simply because it was bad for his image. Moreover, he insisted that he would get custody of Luke since he was the heir even if they divorced. He also threatened to take away the jobs that he had arranged for us. That was why Tammy gave up on divorcing him. But now, given the situation, we might have a chance to make them divorce.
Please, if you'll divorce me and release Luke from you, I won't go to the police.
Don't be ridiculous. Who do you think you're talking to?
At Chris's shouting, Luke squeezed his eyes shut tightly.
You're so cheeky. If we divorce, do you think my reputation as the perfect family man at work will survive? I live in a nice house, wear good clothes, have your elderly parents working at my company's affiliates, and then making sure our child walks the elite path. You should be thanking me, not complaining.
Chris yelled all that in one go, gasping for breath. Then John, with an expressionless face, muttered,
Thanks. You finally let out your true feelings. Now we've got the real you on display for the first time.
Huh? What do you mean?
Didn't you notice? As soon as John stopped you from hitting Tammy using his Aikido skills, he turned on your computer's mic and camera.
What did you say?
At my words, Chris rushed to the computer. In the process, the earphone cord got tangled with his foot and came unplugged. The conversation from the screen was now clearly audible. No one was talking about work anymore.
No way. This isn't some prank, is it?
Is this really happening?
Well, this is.
Chris spoke to make excuses while trying to smile at the camera, but it was already too late. People started dropping off the call one by one, and soon, the screen went completely dark. Chris stood there frozen until his phone started vibrating. Looking at the screen, he grabbed the phone almost immediately.
Hello? No, that was just a misunderstanding. No, please, that's not what I meant.
The call was apparently from his boss. Desperately making excuses, Chris was left behind while Tammy took Luke and headed toward the front door to get into our car. In the silence, Tammy whispered to us,
Thank you.
"Welcome back, Tammy." When I replied, Tammy sniffled. After 65 years of my life, I was exhausted from witnessing the first chaotic scene I had ever experienced, but my heart was full of love for my adorable daughter and grandson sleeping in the back seat. Later, using the savings John and I had accumulated, we hired an attorney, and Tammy's divorce was finalized smoothly. We were able to claim alimony and property division. Additionally, due to the severe mistreatment, we filed for damages. Afterward, we heard about the downfall of Chris through the attorney. It turns out, there were not only his colleagues at that meeting but also key executives who could impact his promotion. When Chris's true nature was revealed to them, his career prospects were blocked. The news reached Chris's father, who is one of the company's executives. His father told him that he could stay at the company if he showed remorse, though their father-son relationship was over. Moreover, rumors began to spread that he had mistreated his wife and child, resulting in police involvement, and that he had even been arrested before. Now he was regarded as a totally dangerous person. Apparently, there was no longer a place for him at his company. However, since he had to pay a large sum to his wife and child, he couldn't quit and was stuck working in a difficult situation. To completely sever ties with Chris, John paid back the same amount of money we had received from him. Then I quit my job and started working at a local diner. Tammy also started working there. She laughed, saying that she gained weight because the staff meal served there was so good. It seemed like she was finally back to her usual self. Recently, the healthy menu she created became a hit with female customers, and she happily received a bonus. When Luke's scars healed, he was transferred to a local public kindergarten. Since there are fewer children, they get more individual attention. I'm amazed at how much he's been able to do in such a short time. He's not very good at studying, but he loves arts and crafts and spends his free time making creations from leftover materials. Thanks to that, our home has turned into a little museum. And even now, I still make kids meals on my days off. Luke will even ask for seconds after finishing up his meal. Though I have to put more time and effort into making food for him, the joy outweighs everything, so it doesn't feel like a burden at all. Of course, every time I cook, I set up a flag, which Luke makes himself.
This is for you, Grandma.
Today, Luke drew a picture of me on the flag.